Hi you guys, it's Amy Gretchen. Welcome back to another Project Life Process video. In this video, I'm working on week 20 from 2017. It's kind of blowing me away that we're already at week 20 and into the summer. Although I guess this week it's not summer yet, but as I'm recording this, it is. I wasn't able to do the editing and the voiceover until now, so it's been definitely been a couple of weeks since then, and a full May for sure. I always say that May is the December of spring. It just is such a busy time of year. Definitely enjoy it, but takes it out of you. So what you're seeing me do, if you are new to my channel, this is something that I do every single week. Is first thing is to go through my photos and to cut them up and then decide where I want them to go. Sometimes it stays the way I originally planned, and then sometimes they end up getting mixed up depending on the types of stories that I tell and the journaling cards that I decide to use. So one of the things that I chose to do this time, and you can see on some of the photos, it's pretty small because the text was intentionally pretty small. I have some really, I think it was actually only one word. The top two photos, it started with those because literally one day my backyard was full of green and dandelions, and then the next day it was like 3 or 4 inches of snow in my backyard. It was kind of crazy. It went from 70 to about 35 degrees overnight. So I thought that that would be a really interesting story to tell. And so what I ended up doing is on one photo I put before, and then on the other photo I put after. And after I had gone ahead and printed it out, I realized that the type was pretty small. And like I said, I intentionally did that, but I felt like it kind of got lost. So I wanted to put a box around it or add something to it so that it would draw some attention, that there was actually type on there. As you can see right now, some of the type was white and some of the type was black. So that's why I'm using both inks there. So what I decided to do is I was looking through my stamps and I didn't really have a small stamp that was a box like that. And I thought, I could possibly just write right on the photo, but I don't have a good white ink pen. So I was looking for a stamp that would work, and the only one that I could find actually had a stamp on the inside, and so I decided that I would cut it out. So that's what you saw me do with the X-Acto, and that's something that I learned from Jennifer McGuire actually a couple years ago when I was watching some of her card videos, is that she would take her acrylic stamps and she would cut them up, and they were totally fine and they still worked. And so that's what I decided to do. I think what was on the inside, it said evidence or something like that. And so I felt totally fine cutting it up. And I know that if I wanted to be able to use it again as it was intended, that I would totally be able to do that as well. So, just something to think about, that you do have the ability to cut up your stamps and to make them work for you. So the next thing that I did is I had these 2 photos that I had printed as a 3x3. And in Photoshop, I went ahead and I added a little something to the top, and I was going to do the complete journaling, but I thought, I might want to add an embellishment or something. And so I wasn't sure. Specifically that one with my daughter, the black and white photo, I was thinking that I wanted to do like a 1, 2, 3, because she was telling me in the car one day, totally random, about how awesome her hair is and why. And she gave me 3 reasons. So I was thinking that I definitely wanted to do like a 1, 2, 3. So I was hoping to look for some type of embellishment that might work. You can see that I'm looking at these wood veneers that came from Freckled Fawn, and they were just on my desk. So I thought maybe that would actually work. I wasn't really loving them, so I just set them aside. So that is why I decided to handwrite the journaling for both of those cards. So I just set them aside, and I decided to look through my cards and to see what I would like to do for my title page. I saw the yellow one that I really liked that pop of yellow, especially with the dandelions and the other green that was in the pictures. But ultimately, I decided to go with that black and white. And I thought that that would just work great with this week. I feel like there was a lot of black and white with the photo, with the cards that I had created in Photoshop, and then also with those tags, the photo of the tags that I made for my week in the life album. So I thought that it worked out really well. So that's why I decided to go ahead and choose that. So the next thing that I did is I grabbed over these Kelly Winnell stamps, and I think they're called Slim Jim. I really love these stamps. I like them because they're tall, but they're thin. So I feel like I'm able to stamp a longer word. And so what I decided to do for this card that I'm working on now, I'm just going to make my own journaling card. My husband, he was traveling this week, and he traveled to 3 places. So he first started in San Diego, and then he went to LA, and then he finished off in Vegas. So I thought that it would be fun to do something similar that I did a few weeks ago when I when I stamped out yes, and I stamped it out 3 different times and then wrote some journaling underneath. And so I thought that I would do that for this as well, because he was in those cities for very specific reasons. So I thought that that would be a great story to tell for this week. So you can see that I'm just going to go ahead. I'm using my Fiskars stamp press, which I love, and just helping me to get those letters straight so that I can stamp those cities on there. Like I mentioned, I was really happy that I was able to get the full San Diego onto that card because I wasn't sure, which is why I didn't include a space. And then when I was doing Vegas, I decided to leave off the Las and just put Vegas, because we never call it Las Vegas in this house. We call it Vegas. So that's why I decided to just leave off the first part of it. So now you'll see that I'm just, I always clean up my stamps the best I can with just a wet wipe. And then I just went ahead and put my stamps away. And before I do the journaling, I wanted to give it just a minute to let some of that black ink dry a bit, because it's kind of a pigment ink. So I wanted to let it dry. And I was looking through some cards, some possible journaling cards and filler cards that I could use for this spread. And then I just went ahead and was telling the stories. So my husband was in San Diego for work, and then in Los Angeles, he was at a concert, a U2 concert, and then in Vegas, he was at a conference. So definitely a full week for him, and I'm glad that I got it documented, because those are the types of things that I would like to remember. Definitely a busy time for him this time of year as well. All right, so I'm going back to my title page, and I just grabbed over the mega date stamp from Studio Calico so that I can put the dates for the week. And I grabbed over a white piece of paper, and I decided that I would stamp it on there and then put that directly onto the card. So I'm just inking it off screen. I apologize that I didn't realize that my ink was totally off screen. I just wasn't thinking when I was working, but it's the same black ink that I use for everything. So I noticed that it didn't stamp great. And so I was trying to, you can see that I'm covering up the other numbers, and I was trying to stamp it again, but I couldn't really get it to stamp down. So I just decided to do it again. Sometimes it bothers me, sometimes it didn't. This time, because it was going to take me so little time to redo it, I just decided to go ahead and redo it so that I would be 100% happy with it. And luckily this time I was able to get it just right, so it looked pretty crisp. I really do love that black ink. Like I mentioned earlier, it is a pigment ink, and I feel like it just stamps really beautifully. So I just went ahead and I cut down some of the white paper because I thought it felt a little too big on that card. And then of course I'm going to outline it. Like always, I felt like it needed a little something more, something to ground it so it wouldn't get lost onto the card with all those small black all those small black dots. So I was looking to see about adding an embellishment. And I just want to apologize for my video cutting off. I think I've probably mentioned to you guys once or twice, but my video camera, it only videos for about, I think maybe 10, 11, 12 minutes. And if I don't set a timer, then I forget to shut it off because I just get going and I forget. So that's what happened here. It just kind of ran out. It just stops on its own. So I apologize for that, but you can see that I was looking at those embellishments that I haven't used them. I'm pulling them back again, but I do actually end up going ahead and using them on this spread this week. So those embellishments came from the Studio Calico kit. They're plus signs, and I use them actually more like X's than I do pluses this week. I also grabbed over one of these speech bubbles. I think this came in either the May or the April kit. I can't now remember. I used them a couple of weeks ago, but like I said, it's been too long. But it was one of the Studio Calico kits. So this time I grabbed over the stamp set that came with it as well. So I'm thinking it is May. And then I grabbed over my StazOn black ink. And I did this because the speech bubble is vellum, and I wasn't sure if the other black ink would rub off or if it would stay or if it would even dry. So I wasn't sure. So I just decided to use the StazOn. I really don't use the StazOn that much because it's not a very juicy ink pad and it dries out really quickly. And so sometimes I feel like it doesn't stamp that great, even when you buy it brand new. That's kind of been my experience there. So it worked this time. I did a practice and I pushed really hard to make sure it got inked really well. So I thought it worked really well on top of that vellum. So that's definitely an option there for you. One of the other things that I'm doing is I told you that I do a lot is I move things around, just trying to figure out how I want things to go and really thinking about the stories that I want to tell and then looking for cards that will fit my needs. I really like that card that had the yellow on it. I thought that it really went with this spread and it went with the hey there and then some of the photos. But I think what was holding me back was what was the sentiment on there did not match with the story that I wanted to tell. So I just went ahead and thought I'll just use this. I really like the card. I'll just use it for another week, but it just didn't fit with what I was looking for this week. You can see that I went ahead and also I switched out another card. This one says the story of today. I believe these are all Studio Calico cards as well. So I grabbed over this chipboard set. This came from Ali Edwards' Up Kit. And a lot of the sentiments I felt like really worked with most of the stories that I wanted to tell. So you can see that you can see coming up that I will heavily use this chipboard set. That one right there says Live It Up. So I just put it on that photo of my daughter and her friends. And they did a color run at school, which, those are always a lot of fun to do. And then another one, this journaling was all about my daughter dancing and just her end of the year performance. The next thing that I used the chipboard on, and remember I mentioned back that I wanted to do a 1, 2, 3 for this journaling, and it just so happens that Up chipboard had, I think it had 1 through 4, and it was on triangles, as you can see, or, you could actually say arrows. I really loved it. I thought it was perfect, and it was exactly what I was looking for. So I'm just going to go ahead and write the things that she said was so awesome about her hair. I love to include stories like this because this is absolutely something that I would never remember in a million years that she said unless I wrote it down. So there have been times where I thought, oh, for sure I'll remember this, and I never do. So I'm really happy that when I hear something like that, it's like something goes off in my brain and I say, I need to write it down. And so I do, like at that moment. There's been times where she said stuff in the car and I've handed her my phone and say, write that down in the notes, just because I don't want to forget. So that's another option as well if you have people that can text while you're driving or type while you're driving. So I just went ahead and told my last story. I got one more chipboard from that set. I think it does say today or something, like I can't really see it. But it was a circle, and so I cut it off so that it would just rest straight on that pattern paper. So I just went ahead and did that. And then I just added a couple more chipboards as well. And then I'm going to go ahead and tell one more story about this week. And then I think I'm going to call this layout good. I really like the way it came together. I like the black and whites. I like the type. I was just really happy about getting this spread finished and getting all these stories told. Anyway, you guys, I hope you guys were able to get some inspiration from this layout. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below and I will definitely get to them. Like always, totally appreciate you guys being here and we will catch you in the next video. Bye.